General Khalifa Haftar of Libya suspends his position as general as the December general elections approaches. His action has raised speculation about his participation in the upcoming polls. Also coming up this news, our Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema looks forward to holding talks with officials of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to secure a lending program to help his nation emerge from a debt crisis. And finally, groundnut producers in Senegal receive 800 tons of groundnut seeds for a testing phase program initiated by the country's national oilseed marketing company. Those were our top stories. The details right ahead. Hello and thanks for joining us on this edition of Newsroom. You're watching Dash News. Libya's renegade General Khalifa Haftar has suspended his position as general ahead of the December general elections. It comes as a new law suggests that those who want to take part in the polls drop their current roles for 3 months. Ponje reports that Khalifa Haftar's action raises speculation about his participation in the polls.
Many have been used to seeing this man, Khalifa Haftar, in his military uniform. But for the next 3 months, he will suspend his role as a general of Libya's eastern-based Libyan National Army until December 24th, when elections are scheduled. According to state media, his decision to drop the military title paves the way for Haftar to participate in the presidential elections. A new controversial law approves potential candidates to drop their current positions for 3 months before the elections and can retake their roles if they don't win. Some disagreed with this, saying the parliamentary speaker who approved the law was tailoring a way for him and Khalifa Haftar to stand in the election without losing their previous jobs. Haftar has already named someone to replace him as general. Western and Eastern Libya are trying to unite this December in much-awaited elections. Many hope that the outcome puts to rest the continuous conflict which the country has been witnessing for long.
Zambia's newly elected president Hakainde Hichilema is due to meet officials at the International Monetary Fund and World Bank in Washington. The leader of the Southern African nation hopes to secure a lending program to help it emerge from a debt crisis. Bibiana Shinitamvuma reports.
Meeting his words during the recent elections in Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema is determined to restore the economic growth of his country. Zambia became the first African country to default on its debt refund last November. This was during the COVID-19 pandemic after failing to keep up with payment on nearly $13 billion of international debt. Hichilema, who is currently in Washington, is creating ties which can assist his country in the face of the social and economic crisis they currently face. Zambian Finance Minister recently made it clear that it is imperative for the country to secure outstanding loans, as this can help them restore creditor confidence and give the government access to cheaper and more sustainable financing. President Hichilema has held a meeting with the American Vice President Kamala Harris, who applauds his focus on prioritizing state reforms. The White House further said she appreciates President Hakainde Hichilema's efforts to make Zambian economy grow as well as gain stability.
We move to Senegal, where the National Oilseed Marketing Company of the country has distributed 800 tons of groundnut seeds to producers. It is part of its testing phase program as it aims to increase the volume of groundnuts collected on the domestic market. Nadine Mebune tells us that groundnut is the first export product of the agricultural sector in the West African country. Her report.
To increase the volume of peanuts collected on the domestic market in Senegal, the National Oilseeds Corporation distributed 800 tons of peanut seeds to producers as part of the first phase of its contractualization program. In preparation of the 2021-2022 marketing campaign, the company hopes to exceed stock of 65,000 tons of peanuts purchased from producers during the previous financial year. So far, Senegal has harvested 1.8 million tons of peanuts in 2020-2021. These producers who have found their interest in the program will try to educate other farmers so that they can sell their production to Sonacos. By doing so, spread tentacles all over the place the following year.
From Senegal to Cameroon, where the country's Prime Minister has announced that the government will strengthen communication about the resolutions of the major national dialogue in the Northwest and Southwest regions. Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Gute, who gave an assessment of the second evaluation exercise, also says that the reconstruction of the two regions remains top priority for the government. Peter Saucier reports.
After chairing the second steering committee meeting to evaluate the resolutions of the major national dialogue in Buea, Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute is pleased with the conduct of the exercise.
Yesterday, from the reception they gave us when we arrived, and today the enthusiasm of all the participants, all the invited guests who have contributed enormously in making about positive proposals that would help to change the dynamics of the situation.
It emerged from the conclave that knowledge about government's efforts to resolve the Anglophone crisis still remains unknown to some segments of the population. Communication about the resolutions would therefore be enhanced henceforth.
Is that we need to communicate better and right to the grassroots. All that the head of state has been doing in the resolution of this crisis, the special status that has been given, and a very good illustration was done by the Director General of NASPA of the importance of this special status, which some people don't understand till now. And so we are going to go back to work to try and put this in a very understandable form. We're going to dispatch people to all the nooks and crannies, all the different areas of the Northwest and Southwest, to broadcast all these positive changes that have taken place, including the special status which responds to what many persons in the two regions have been waiting for.
Priority has also been placed on the reconstruction and development of the restive regions. The Prime Minister is calling for support.
What is being done in the reconstruction exercise of what was lost, a lot is being done, and we only hope with the recommendations that the participants brought about today that things will move even better and better in the coming days. Thank you very much.
The head of government has urged stakeholders to accompany the government in realizing resolutions of the major national dialogue, stressing that the state remains committed in ensuring a return to normalcy in the Northwest and Southwest regions.
You're watching Newsroom on Dash News. Since President Patrice Talon of Benin Republic took over power, the West African country has witnessed an unusual political happening. Indeed, the head of state has received at the Marina Palace his historic opponent, Boni Yayi. Hitherto this, the opposition had been making known its revendications at less official venues. Kingsley Che reports.
The meeting between Boni Yayi and Patrice Talon comes barely one day after the International Day for Peace. Both statesmen had a tete-a-tete for about an hour before speaking to media practitioners present at the Palace of Marina for the event. It should be noted that such a meeting between the former and present presidents of Benin had long been awaited by many. Ever since he left office, Boni Yayi had joined international organizations to decry the state of democracy in the country. But it appears both men are presently willing to turn the page. Boni Yayi is equally demanding the release of political prisoners and the return of the exiled. Though he didn't mention his interest in the forthcoming legislative elections to take place in 2023, he nonetheless wished that these be more open than those of 2019 and 2021. Though President Patrice Talon has not yet responded directly to these demands, it appears the future is rather pregnant with many stakes in Benin.
From Western Africa to Northern Africa, where Tunisia's President Kais Saied has extended the suspension he placed on parliament. This came on Wednesday as the move is seen as an attempt by the president to consolidate his power to rule by decree. Critics haven't taken the issue lightly, as Ponje reports.
Since this legislative house was suspended in July, lawmakers have not held in session. Now, the situation is continuing as President Kais Saied on Wednesday prolonged the suspension of parliament. He equally extended his decision to strip lawmakers of their immunity. By this, it means the president continues to wield all state power and is able to rule by decree for an unspecified period. Kais Saied earlier this week promised to name a new prime minister and amend electoral laws. But the Islamist Ennahda party says it won't recognize these new measures. According to the party's president, Rached Ghannouchi, the further suspension of parliament amounts to an abandonment of the 2014 constitution. To others, the president's action signifies an end to the rule of law in the country. As the country's leader consolidates his power, it remains to be seen what the next step would be.
In Cameroon, the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betty Assomo, has revealed that the military strategy against Ambazonia separatist fighters in the respective northwest and southwest regions will change in the coming days. This was during an emergency security meeting in the northwest region, where about 15 troops were recently killed by the secessionists. Ponje reports.
The security situation in the northwest region is worrisome. It prompted the defense boss, Joseph Betty Assomo, to rush to the region on Wednesday with the country's military brass. He was received by Northwest Governor Adolphe Lele Lafrique. It follows the killing of about 15 state troops by secessionist fighters in 2 separate attacks recently. The severity of the crisis there is enough to make one scratch his head. During this emergency security meeting with military leaders in the region, Minister Betty Assomo was briefed on the current happenings there. He extended condolences to the families of the fallen soldiers.
We wish to convey to the biological bereaved families and the large military family the deep and sincere condolences of the President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Paul Biya, and those of the nation following these tragic incidents. We equally extend same condolences to the families of civilian victims, sometimes butchered with incredible barbarity by these armed gangs.
Government says separatists have acquired sophisticated weapons and are receiving help from foreign terrorist groups. Given their new tactic of using improvised explosive devices against state troops, the defense chief said the military is also ready to change its mode of operation and strategy in combating the armed fighters.
The new paradigm of the security situation, which is already in the process of consolidation in this region, as in that of the Southwest, warrants a change of approach in the action of the defense and security forces.
His statement is a confirmation of that which was made by the Army spokesman, Navy Captain Cyril Serge Atonfak. Joseph Betty Assomo leaves the region with one conviction: the state is poised to up its fight against those it considers as terrorists.
In Morocco, 4 suspected members of the militant group that planned attacks and assassinations have been arrested by Moroccan authorities. Reports say they are said to belong to an Islamic State group affiliated militants. Premier Agbo.
The Moroccan authorities have arrested another 4 suspected members of a militant group that planned attacks and assassinations. Reports say they are said to belong to an Islamic State group affiliated militants. This comes after the arrest of 3 other members of the suspected gang group September 14 and detained in the southern city of Era Shidia. According to local news, the group had intended to target military figures and civilian officials. It said the assassination methods were to have included poison. Since 2002, Moroccan security services have dismantled more than 2,000 extremist cells and made over 3,500 arrests linked to terrorism.
Thank you, Primera. That brings us to the end of this newscast. Stay with Dash News and follow me on Twitter for more interesting stories.